Lesson 7.3 Civil Rights. Black soldiers fought in World War I to defend freedoms they did not yet enjoy. They served in segregated units throughout the war. The recently formed NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, helped bring awareness to the ongoing issues of racism and discrimination experienced by these and other black people in the United States. In the meantime, African American artists and musicians rose to prominence, establishing beyond a doubt that there was no difference in abilities between races. Between 1910 and 1930, approximately 1 million African Americans moved from the Deep South, where continued racism plagued them, and an infestation of boll weevils ruined cotton crops and made work scarce. Families moved to northern states and settled in urban areas like Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, and New York, where work was plentiful because so many men were overseas fighting in World War I. The so-called migration slowed down in the 1930s when the economy slowed from the Great Depression and jobs in the northern cities became harder to find. The Harlem Renaissance is an artistic style that reflects the cultural heritage of African American writers, artists, and musicians. These artists rejected styles that imitated more traditionally white art forms and instead embraced their racial pride and their artistic independence. Zora Neale Hurston was one of the great writers of the Harlem Renaissance. She was born and raised in the Deep South and was the daughter of a Baptist minister. As a writer and an anthropologist, she frequently combined her cultural observations with her literary pursuits. Her most famous novel was Their Eyes Were Watching God. Langston Hughes was a talented poet, playwright, and columnist, and a leading artist in the Harlem Renaissance. In fact, his essay, The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, was considered the manifesto or mission statement of the Harlem Renaissance. His premise was that intellectual and artistic freedom and racial pride were the foundation of the movement. Hughes was a prolific writer and was known particularly for a regular column that ran in the Chicago Defender from 1942 into the 1960s that exposed and critiqued racism. James Weldon Johnson was a seminal figure in the Harlem Renaissance and was a Renaissance man himself in the classic meaning of that word. He was a songwriter, co-composing Lift Every Voice and Sing, which was later regarded as the Negro national anthem. He composed lyrics and music for Broadway musicals. He wrote poetry. He studied law. He started his own newspaper. He wrote novels and even his own autobiography. He was a powerful influence on other artists associated with the Harlem Renaissance. Marcus Garvey was a black nationalist born in Jamaica. He moved to Harlem when he was 28 years old. Garvey wanted to regain political control of Africa from European countries. He started the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Its goal was, quote, all the Negro peoples of the world to gather into one great body and to establish a country and government absolutely their own. Paul Robeson was a man of many talents. He attended Rutgers University on scholarship in the early 1920s, where he played college football. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame after his death, and excelled in his studies there. He attended Columbia Law School and practiced law in the 1920s in a firm in New York City. Racial tensions ended his legal career early. However, he took up a new career as an actor and a singer. He is best known for his rendition of Old Man River and his portrayal of Othello on stage. In the 1960s, he became a victim of Senator Joseph McCarthy's witch hunts because of his black nationalist tendencies and affiliations. Louis Armstrong was born in New Orleans, fittingly known as the birthplace of jazz. After a rough childhood that saw him moving from home to home and in and out of his family's custody, he found his way to music by purchasing an old trumpet when he was a young teenager. He learned to play, read music, sing, and dance, and came to be known as the greatest jazz musician of all time.